I became aware of how I can focus on what to say or what to do as a way of getting, having, producing what I want or the outcomes. So the focus is on the saying, on the doing. Mm. And what was revealed was how I could put the focus on what I want, like at the end, the outcome, and keep it there, not allowing the details, what to say, how to get there to fall into place
Mm.
in the moment, reveal themselves
Mm.
rather than designing, pushing, thinking I know what to say or do. Subtle, a very subtle difference, but which could have such different outcomes.
Mhm.
One takes up a lot of mental space for me. Just that's how I've done it. So in the silence, I was just looking, being aware of the difference of those two focus points could be, what different virtues, what spaces, what different space could be in between them. Morning, Central.
Good morning,
Morning,
beautiful
Joe.
souls.
Wonderful to hear your voice again.
Thank you. Is my phone echoing?
Not
Not
badly.
Okay. Is there a theme or a word today?
There have been quite a few. You've had patience, virtue. Mine were intention and clarity. Heinz, what was your word?
Awareness. So
Ha.
like just the
There you
awareness.
go. Yeah. Simple. Deep, wide, profound awareness.
Mm.
Space within spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm curious. How do we experience virtue?
That was Kai's word.
Mm.
In the context of patience is a virtue.
Mm.
So how to experience virtues? It's a way of being. Our virtues are, it's our way of being, and our way of being can be virtues or vices. And only in the silence can we see the difference. Only in the awareness can we see the difference.
Mm.
Just in difference between virtues and vices. Expands is a virtue, amplifies is a virtue. I hold that as a positives, like they flow, momentum, accumulate as virtues. Creating space is virtues. And the opposite appear to be vices for me.
Mm.
I'll circle back to what you were speaking to, Jesse, and in your in your awareness of keeping your end result in mind and allowing for what comes to you to say and do in the moment. And for me, what came, I guess, because those were my words this morning, was when we have clarity of our intention, it's much easier to keep that hierarchy of allowing our end result to be our focus, and trusting that we'll know in the moment how to steer that path, how to carve that path, how to dance that dance. With the doing and the saying, or the speaking, communicating.
That's the only time we can really know, is in the moment.
I think what also happens sometimes is that with as much clarity as we can have on our intention, the doing and the saying can often still knock us off track. And the secret of how do you get back on track is to remember that in that moment that you made that decision, you might not have had enough information, and that's all it is. That you just didn't have enough information at that specific point in time. Doesn't mean that your desired end result isn't attainable. And so you correct course, you come back again. You bring that clarity and intention back. And now you have more information in terms of what your journey is about. And off you go.
You know, the what is always a big question for me. But even when that's figured out, an even bigger question is the when.
What about the why?
Isn't the why contained in the what?
I'm participating in a mastermind for Think and Grow Rich. And so I'll just put that out as a disclaimer from where my comments may come from with the influence of what that's ruffling up for me at this stage in my life. So you ask, like, I think that the how comes when you stay true to the what. And the what becomes more and more defined as you go toward that thing that's calling you. And when that call comes from the deep from within you, it just, you can either be curious about it or you can be afraid of it. And so when we ask when, I don't have the conclusion, but in my examination of when, what I know of superconscious omnipresence, the when is when we match our vibrational energy to that thing is the what. In most of my experience, I really have to say that in this adulting thing called being a grown-up, I have transmuted to everything being outside of me and honoring those things more outside of me. But as I'm becoming aware and curious, it's living in that end result to harness that virtuous vibration of my purpose. The win is now. The full manifestation of it as I perceive it, it grows as I live it now.
Yep.
As I take agency and authority and not outside of myself, it's now. No one else may see it now. It's okay. It's all right. I may not even see it now, but the vibrational energy of who and what I am and want and desire, and it's to be experienced. It's now. So I bring it by the actions that I take in the now. Noah building the ark. The ark was already built before it was. He just had to take the daily action. when no one else could see what he was even building. But it had to be true in his knowingness of hearts and to be in that vibration. It's no different than an artist creating a picture, a sketch, a design. It already is. It's now. And one of the things I'm meditating with is it's not mind over matter. It's mind expressed through matter, with matter. So we take these things that are around us, these pencils, these drawings, the wood for the ark, and all the other supplies. And with the vibrational energy, the how comes into play. The pencil's picked up, the paper is presented, the hand moves to express through matter. And we build our ark. The process of doing is now. It's now. It's now. Yea, though we take the courage to express it, regardless of what anyone says. It's not raining. What are you, crazy? Whatever. It doesn't. It's not what's outside of us. It's the expression of who we are and what calls us and our desire. It's now. And if not now, when? When we take the lid off of our lives and express and say yes. Say yes to the call. Say yes to the design. Say yes through any critique that will surely try to throw us off. And it may seem to delay the now. But when it keeps calling you, it's now.
That was such a great description, Sindral. And I'll add something, and that's to remember to use our imagination in all of what you said.
Thank you for using the Noah's Ark story to illustrate that. Because what we never realize is that from the time he received the instructions until the time that ark floated was 100 years. And there he was making the boat in the middle of a desert. It's like the most insane thing you could ever think of.
Wow.
And imagine putting up with that kind of ridicule for 100 years.
And that he was alive and thriving for 100 years and more.
Yeah.
100 years. Oh my goodness. But if he had not expressed himself through the nowness of bringing together the matter, what if he never started? So it was now, it's now. 100 years of now. Every day experiencing the now. Now do this. Now do that. Now get this. Now forge that. 100 years of now.
And so I had a thought the other day about this, well, I think what brought it back to mind was Craig saying, that it was 100 years, that it took that long. And my thinking was, how do I balance these different coordinates that I had? And the coordinates were the length of my body's life, the debt that I've had to incur, which I could incur, and I'm very grateful that I could do it. And the debt is to facilitate the health of my body. And then I'm thinking, so then how, thinking about the timing of things, right? So the when. And the conclusion that I came to in the end was I could straddle two realities. And if I straddle those two things, they'll continue. And the reason why I was asking about it was because of what do I leave my daughter with? And so I thought, if it's going to happen, that there's going to be debt after I die, then I better make sure that I use my imagination to its absolute utmost in terms of imagining that it will get resolved, and more than get resolved, that she will have more than enough come her way. And the only way that I can do that is by, in the now, imagining that, being absolutely convinced. So as I say, being absolutely convinced, what I mean by that is allowing for that reality to be there. So it was quite an interesting process for me to go through. And every now and then I have a wobble, around it all, because it's a lot of money. And then I just wiggle. And then I get to where I need to be in the now. With awareness reaching into the core of my being, remembering what's there, what's available. And I'll say again, for me, having the community that I have makes all of this possible for me. And when I say the community that I have, I mean starting definitely with Jesse and everybody here in the mornings. It's materialized all my yoga teachings. That's what it's done. all the things from the yoga teachings that I needed, put it that way. So even if my body doesn't last 100 years, my vibration is infinite.
Thank you for sharing that, Allison. It's helped me to realize that whatever I leave my children, I somehow want to leave them equipped. I have an uncle who we just had his services last Friday, and I got so tickled because his grandson shared the preface of an 800-page manifesto to equip him to take care of things after he left.
Oh, oh my God. That's so divine, my God.
I was like, how awesome is that? And it tickled me so well as you, because I'm one of my books is stories my mother never taught me.
Mm.
And I was like, this man wrote my book from his perspective. And it was just a confirmation, right?
Mm. God, that
so
is
we can
so divine. Sorry,
and
Sindel.
no, I love the conversation. Please. I love it. I was sitting there and I was like, and while he was telling the awareness, like he didn't know that this book was written, but my uncle had a niece privately type it all out and edit,
Wow.
and he read it and edited it, and because he wanted to make sure that the life that he lived with the love that he left, that was materialness, was was not lost or wasted.
Mm.
Like he didn't live his whole life for his grandchildren not to walk on his shoulders.
Mm.
He didn't want his grandchildren to have to start from all that he had to grow through and learn through and not benefit from standing on his shoulders.
God, that is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
But I mean, the amount of work that took.
He was 93 years old, almost 100 years, Craig. He was building that ark.
He was, exactly.
So the time isn't 10 years from now. The time is now, right now. Build now, be now.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
He said he and his instructions while he was still living and knew he was transitioning, he told him, that it was there. And the person who had it, the manuscript, gave it to him. And of course, in the midst of grief of the loss and the losing and everything,
Oh,
but he's got this thing to not have to guess what
yeah.
his grandfather would want him to do.
Yeah.
He knows with certainty, with instruction, and with the spirit of their relationship, he knows what to do. And it's not like it's confining him or it's
No.
ruling him or he's haunting him from the grave, like if you don't do what I tell you. But he's giving him, it's like breathing the breath of life into the mind. So uncertainty and confusion has such little opportunity to
Mm.
to dismantle the foundation that he lived his life for, and that it benefits the whole family, financially, morally, ethically,
Mm.
to be able to live free in virtue without having to depend on the limitations by bartering with man
Mm.
in areas that are not mutually good. So I have this man's, my uncle's, I would call him, you know how somebody says, well, what's your favorite child? Yeah, you love each one differently, right? So
Mm.
I could almost say this is my favorite uncle. I just love them differently.
Mm.
But this man always was big to me in my life, even though we didn't, in my grown-up years, I wasn't engaging with him, but just one sentence of his could be so impactful. And a man of few words, I might add. Obviously, he didn't say a whole lot because he was writing a whole lot.
He was creating the guidebook, How to Become 93 Years Old with Experience.
Yes.
Yes.
How often don't we wish we had a guidebook like that,
Yes.
written by our parents or grandparents?
Exactly,
So
Heinz.
we could relate to it, but I would say it would be a book that everybody could actually use, because everybody has to go through the same experiences in some sort of way. And if he was a man of few words, that means he was a man of a lot of actions.
Mm.
I didn't hear that. If he was a man of a few words, he was a
That
man
means
of what?
Of a lot of actions. He took
Absolutely.
action. Instead of talking about it, he would do it.
Yes. Yes. And he did it. And he did it.
Gosh, what a divine story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Syndrome.
My uncle I'll
That's
call
so
his name.
inspiring.
Uncle
So
Levi. So you were talking about leaving things for your daughter?
mm,
Mm. It reminds me of phone calls that I get. And I used to be able to make those phone calls. Mommy, what herb to use for a cold? Mommy, my daughter scraped her knee real bad. How do I clean it up without having to go to the hospital?
mm,
Mommy, I can't choose between this dress and that dress for this affair. Which one is best?
mm,
How do I pick? You know, all of those mommy phone calls. Well, mommy's not here anymore. And I have
mm,
such deeper questions to ask her.
mm,
And the universe, it brings me through her image very often the answers. But now I get to be mommy. My daughter calls me, Mommy, which one do you think is most flattering for me?
mm,
And I'm taking it from your perspective. I may not take your answer, but I still want it.
mm, mm.
Mommy, how much cheese do I put in the macaroni and cheese? Mommy, what time was I born? Things that make a difference.
Those details, those small details that nobody else knows as well as our mothers and fathers can.
Mhm.
And our
But then when,
siblings.
mhm. But then there are the questions that come that aren't asked. And mommy has a contribution. Maybe not the answer, but a contribution.
Mm,
My mom heard my need for an answer when I couldn't even ask the question. And she answered me with a story.
mm,
And it unlocked so many mysteries in that very brief story.
mm,
And so now I share stories, little tidbits. So even though mommy didn't tell me a lot of things, it's not that she didn't tell me, it's that I didn't hear until now that I have the questions.
mm.
And who answers me but mommy? or super conscious.
Oh, I think it's birthright syndrome.
Oh, yes. You got it, Allison. And so that brings me back to virtue.
Mm.
I looked up the word virtue, but it was just words. It didn't resonate with me until just now that virtue is truth. It's just pure truth. It doesn't explain itself.
Mm.
It's explained in its being. Virtue, because of truth, it's courage.
Mm.
It's moral. You can choose to land on any side of it you want to, but in and of itself, virtue is pure morality. It's kindness. It's when the deep speaks to the deep and there's no what do you call it when you kind of color things one way or another to so the statistics will support a position. It supports no position but truth and honesty and clarity, whether you want to look at it or not, whether you want to accept it or not. It doesn't change its integrity in and of its own. So who gave that word virtue?
It was
Kai.
Kai.
Kai. Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you for that word today.
Sort of what he was saying was patience is a virtue. So patience is a reality.
Mhm.
Gives you a new perspective on reality. Gives you a more clear picture. Many possible possibilities.
Yeah. Pure truth.
I just want to say that what I'm experiencing at the moment isn't too unusual in terms of being here, but this has been a very productive and full experience for me this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. My mind was wandering, and I remember one time when Jesse was reminding us that, and that the conversation was about that we are geniuses. And I was being thankful of having a place to come home to remind me of who I am, to reflect who I and what I am. The busy bees.
I can't remember where it was that I read it, and I shared it in the group, but it brings up a sentence that goes, at the core of our being is ultimate reality. I think I've got that right. Can't remember exactly now, but that's what comes to me for now. So, and my teacher used to say to us, "You are the essence of beauty." And for him, beauty was ultimate reality. And then there's that one line in that poem that I love so much of, we are just small living beings. We are not gods that create the rivers. And again, it's that dance, that we need to do between those perspectives. So our bodies can only carry so much at a time, in other words. And we need to be respectful of that. Which is why when we collaborate in community, we can achieve so much more.
I feel like I'm channeling a little of Whitney Houston. Dare Not I Sing. But if you're familiar with her works, there's a song that goes, um, and I will always love you.
Mm. That voice, man. That
Yeah.
voice was pure, pure divine divinity.
But I hear her so well. It's like she's in this conversation. She's hovering here. The crescendo of those notes.
Mm-hmm.
Singing from beyond this realm, still echoing love.
Anybody share before we close out for the day?
I'm complete. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, ladies. It was beautiful listening to you. Mwah. I love you. Big love, guys.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hi,
Bye,
Joe.
Hey, beautiful people.
Love and hugs, everybody.
Yeah, love and hugs. Have a blessed day, all of you.
Love and hugs.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Peace
look at
out.
that picture.
Yes, Kyle.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you,
Mm.
Jess. Thank you, Craig.
Let's try. Heinz, Sidrell.